I'm going to put all of you to work and give the audience here a little bit of insight into kind of our craft. And I'm going to ask you to give some advice in a non-traditional way. Robin, I want you're the advisor to Stephen Harper. He's got 2 weeks and a couple of days. What's the most important thing he has to do between now and then?
He should emulate the most successful Conservative campaigner of our lifetime, Brian Mulroney, and get out and meet Canadians, get heckled, touch flesh, loosen up. He is a far better campaigner than his handlers have allowed him to be, and as long as he stays in the bubble that they have got him in, he is vulnerable to the attack for being in the bubble. He's an experienced politician. Let him go out and meet Canadians.
You don't think he has to explore any additional themes, any additional policy, simply just get out there and campaign?
He has two very powerful messages. I ain't the other guy. Knowing the other guy don't have his marks with a huge chunk of his persuadable voters. And by the way, I promise stability and economic prosperity. They promise chaos. Those are powerful, time-tested political messages. But if you wrap them in a bubble, then it comes with all kinds of negatives about control and discipline and being not open to criticism or suggestion. Put them out in the street. Put them out in a crowd.
Jamie, you get to be Michael Ignatieff's advisor.
Yeah, the advice I'd give Mr. Ignatieff is this. I'd say you've got some terrific members of your caucus. You've got some strong members who've been cabinet ministers before. They're excellent in the media. They know how to fight. I'd assign them the file of beating up on the Prime Minister and his record and whatever you want to kick the crap out of the Prime Minister for. I'd give them to those guys. We call that a surrogate tour. I'd have them blanketing the country, delivering that message. And I'd advise Mr. Ignatieff that hope trumps fear every time. And he's got a great platform. But the problem is we don't know about it yet. If you counted the number of times he actually used the name of his platform, the family pack part of his platform, in the debate, apparently he didn't even say it once. So he's got to be talking to Canadians about what he's got on offer, how he's going to make Canada a better place. Given
how leader-centric the media is, how would you get them to cover the surrogates tour?
Well, I think what you have to do is, that's an excellent question. It is entirely media-centric. And I think what you'd have to do is you'd have to be content for the surrogate to get regional coverage while you got national coverage for your leader. And that's why I wouldn't send one, I wouldn't send two, I'd send 6 or 7 or 8 former cabinet ministers and caucus members all across the country. You have Ralph Goodale in Saskatchewan, he's going to get covered.
Sure.
He's not going to get covered in Nova Scotia.
Or you put Bob Ray in Thunder Bay, that's the story.
Absolutely.
That's the story. Scott?
Is it a big story though? I mean, like, is it, you know, is it going to knock Helena and her baby off the news? I'll be. Let me answer. So I'm doing the math. I got to do the NDP. Is that right?
You're Jack Layton's guy.
All right. Well, I'll start with my usual lovely personality by saying that I just incidentally, in passing, disagree with the advice that both my friends gave to their respective phony leaders. If I was advising Layton, I would say
You just call Michael Ignatieff a phony leader?
No, phony in the context of your phony advisors.
He said phony leader.
All right.
So, I'm going to tweet that right
now. Got a negative ad, right.
And he said it in front of teachers. Even better.
Yeah. And then there's your social media, not owned by parties. It will be in a second. If I was going to, my advice to Jack Layton would be don't be baffled by your own bullshit, all right? And I'll tell you what I mean by that.
I've never met a politician who was capable of that.
No, they tend to love it, actually. But what I mean by that in this instance is this. We've had maybe 36 hours of an elite level discussion about whether something's happening around the NDP. Are they motoring a little bit in parts of Quebec? Is something happening with them? Are they coming up in the polls nationally? Some modest indication that might be the case. They know. They've got internal tracking, and their internal tracking is telling them whether it's true, where it's true, and why it's true. And I would be a slave to math. The big challenge for the NDP might be that they come up 19% and it doesn't accumulate into seats. So where is he going to go? Where is his focus going to be? And why is it working for them? And a big problem for them might be they can elevate their vote level quite substantially in the island of Montreal and it won't translate into a seat
It's
because
a very
the battle.
inefficient vote.
It's a very inefficient vote. They're really not. I don't think there are a handful of, as you move out to the east end of Montreal, only a handful of those ridings are going to be three-way fights. So they could spill a lot of popular support that is making us all talk crazy in the media when we see that, Nanos is at 7:30 in the morning, drop my towel and start talking instantly about what I think of it. Well,
It's actually 7 for most of us, Scott.
well, there we go. I'm late for grooming, but I think he's got to be really focused on what it's going to take to actually translate. If there is anything moving, what's it going to take to translate it into seats? And my guess is focus on Lower Mainland and BC, and I'd give it a week to see if he could do something real in Quebec. And I don't think it's a mistake that he was out yesterday talking, and this morning, talking in Quebec about welcoming Quebec into the constitutional family. He's trying to take votes, not from the Liberals and the Conservatives, if you listen to his narrative. He's trying to take votes from the Bloc, and that's really, really interesting. So I'd say stick to the math, watch what you're doing, and make sure you're trying to be efficient.